Yeah,
that's terrific.
it made it easier.
Wonderful, wonderful. So this, I want to introduce to you, Jesse. This is Harry. He's
Hello.
our producer. So he's gonna make us look pretty. And Judy is our social worker. She created an educational course for us. So all our recipient families take the course that she created before we start the matching process. So we educate them about what it means to raise a non-genetic child, about the process and everything that's related to it. Wonderful. So
Okay.
would you like
I'm
to,
I'm recording, so I'm just gonna kind of disappear now, mute my microphone so I don't disturb the process here. All right. So I'm muted. Bye.
terrific. So I've sent you, JC, the questions, approximate questions that we'll be asking. I don't know if you had a chance to take a look at them. Oh, hi, how are you?
Right.
Great seeing both of you. That's terrific. That's wonderful. Um, so let's then start. I'll be asking questions and you please expand and say as much as you would like to say on the topic. Wonderful. So please describe your fertility journey for us. Why did you decide to go through IVF? How many IVF attempts you went through, and how many embryos were created, and how many children you have through IVF?
So our fertility journey was not easy to start with. We just tried IUIs to begin with, um, and it just was not working. We switched to ICIs, and oh no, we started with ICIs and switched to IUIs. We went through medicated cycles and unmedicated cycles, and nothing was working. So my sister had used a fertility clinic in Denver, and she was really, really happy with that. So we decided to stop trying at our local area and saved up our money and went down to Denver. And sorry, you're good. We only had one IVF cycle and ended up with 22 mature eggs. 24. 24. I thought it was 22 mature eggs. Or no, 20. It was a lot. It was a lot. And then of those, we had 14 embryos that made it to day 5 blasts. And they are all still, well, we have 4 children from those.
We did 3 transfers, twins first, and then 2 singletons because we were terrified we'd get twins again.
Yeah.
And so we used up 4 of the embryos and in 3 pregnancies and didn't have any not make it.
We were very fortunate.
And had 10 left over.
Wow, amazing. And did you both carry or just one person carried?
Just me. Just me. I like being pregnant.
Never wanted to be pregnant.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's great. Amazing. So, terrific. So, what was your motivation? Why did you decide to donate? So, you had these remaining embryos. There are several options, things that you could do with them. So, why did embryo donation was appealing for you?
We had because it took us a while because our first kiddo was pretty medically intense the first 5 years of his life. So we didn't have our second kiddo until the twins were 4 or so. And then we waited another almost 3 years before our littlest was born. So we had, I don't know, 8 years that they were all frozen. And just kind of paying to keep them that way. And neither of us could easily, or it was just kind of weird. After Lucy was born, our youngest, we just couldn't take the step of getting rid of them. They were possible little human beings, but we knew we couldn't do any more kids. We were done.
Well, and we had the 4 coolest kids in the world, and we knew that, we call them our maybe babies. We had all these maybe babies that were probably just as amazing as the 4 we got, and we wanted to give them a chance. The idea of just
throwing them away.
If we couldn't do embryo adoption, our other choice was to donate them to science because we wanted them to have a purpose. for them existing. But we really wanted to give them a chance.
Yeah, because we never we never were able to like pick through them. So every time they're like, well, let's pick which one you want next, we're like, you guys pick. We never gendered them. We never
we don't
did anything.
Find us the best quality one that has the highest chance of success and go with that. So
we just didn't have it in us to be able to like pick and choose. And I think about our oldest, who does have some genetic things. They're de novo, so like none of the other embryos had it. But if we'd have chosen and picked, like we wouldn't have him. And I can't imagine our life without him.
Yeah.
So we're glad we did it the way that we did, but we also knew like those babies could be in a family somewhere, and do really, really well and be really, really healthy, and we just couldn't throw them away.
Nope.
Absolutely, that's wonderful that you didn't. How did you learn about embryo donation? Did your clinic inform you about this process?
Yes-ish.
We'd heard about it, and like snowflake adoption and all that sort of stuff, but we didn't know a lot about it. And then I started researching and doing a bit, and that was like the on your own way was terrifying, and there's so much to do. And then I just happened to see on like, because YouTube is kind of weird and crazy and knows what you're doing. And it brought up a video of your guys' clinic or whatever how you guys do help with the connecting and adoption of embryos and whatnot. And I was like, let's just do this. And then we looked into that, and that was the easiest, and
it just fit what we were looking for. So that was good.
That's wonderful, wonderful. Do you remember, it's been a while, but do you remember the process that you went through with us, the steps that it took? Could you describe for our donor families who are thinking about donating, sort of how the process looks like, donating through the agency?
It wasn't terribly hard. We did some medical forms for my side, since I am the, biological female donation of the embryos. And we already had done some of that because of our eldest child's medical history.
Yeah, and we just had to do like a initial interview, which was set up super duper fast. When I sent an email, and then we were given kind of the rundown of what we'd go through, and that was simple. Went through the interview with the psychologist.
Oh yeah, that part.
And just with her checking in to see where we were and making sure we were on the same page of wanting to donate, and making sure we had like the kind of the community, like our family community or the community we've built, kind of to support us and make sure that we were in a good mental state to be donating to other families, because it's a kind of an unknown. And she just wanted to make sure we were kind of ready and had a realistic picture of what it meant. And we passed that with flying colors.
Yes.
So like we had thought about it for a long time, so it wasn't a new like, let's just do this on a whim. Like we always kind of knew in the back of our minds that once we were done with the embryos, that something would happen with them, not in our family, but we just weren't quite sure what.
And then going through the process, once we were hooked up with the agency of, getting sent family profiles to look at, and it was really kind of fun to get to see, other people. There are a few times that we just felt so like, well, 2 times that we felt so super connected to the family profiles, that we were just like, this feels right. This feels.
And it was weird because there were a couple that were sent that we were both like, there's nothing
wrong with this family.
Wrong with the family or the single parent that was trying to adopt. But for whatever reason, both of us would just be like, nope, that's just not quite the right fit for us. But it was really hard.
It felt awful to say no.
Yeah, when you couldn't find any like reason that the couple was, or the person was not, you weren't quite feeling the comfort level of donating to them. It was just such a weird thing, because we're like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with these people. They just weren't quite the right fit for us and going forward, because we had some conditional things that we wanted in the families that we were donating to. But it just felt awful every time that we were like, no, that's not quite the right fit. But it was okay to say no. And the choices that we did make in the end were the perfect
Well,
ones
and it
for
was
us.
like when we saw the other families, it was like, well, this
Yeah.
is why we had to say no, because these are the right people. So
Mhm. So, because
That's
just
wonderful.
like psychologist wise, we've done a lot of the reading about how, because we used a sperm donor in the first place, and with our own children, being very open and forthcoming with where they came from and how they were made, and and how that's best practice. And so for us, we wanted to make sure that whatever family we gave these maybe babies to, that they felt on the psychological side of things kind of the same way, where it's like it's not this big reveal when the child is a teenager or older, and right from the get-go they know kind of how they were made, and that they were given with lots of love, and understanding that like this is now their family, but we 100% stand behind them in
and
their
we'll help and support if there are any medical needs that come up that they need answers to those questions. And
Mhm,
we've actually formed pretty good friendships with the families, and
mhm.
our kids know when a new little donor sibling comes about. And we have one family that we are in contact with, and we send letters back and forth because everybody likes skip mail. And it's very sweet. It's a very sweet situation.
Yeah. So
Wonderful. So you were matched with several families. You were matched with two families. That's right.
Well,
Two
we
families.
had 4 different options, but 2 families that we donated to.
Yeah.
Mhm. And how many kids were born so far?
Three.
Three
three
kids.
little girls.
Yeah.
All girls. Oh, three little girls. That's wonderful. Oh, that's terrific. And you chose an open donation. You mentioned that you have communication with those families. Can you explain why you decided to have an open donation with those families?
Again, the psychological reason is of we wanted the children to have that, if they wanted to connect with us, they absolutely could. And it's kind of at the comfort level of the families. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's open, but we've really we took a step back and let each family kind of decide on their comfort level.
They kind of get to initiate how
Yeah.
much or how little they share with us. And
Yeah, we don't push for anything. We don't ask for much other. I think we said it was like once a year or whatever. Like they're in contact with us way more often than that.
yes.
But we just kind of let them take the lead on both of them, and one we hear from nearly daily, weekly at least.
Yeah.
And the other one we hear from probably monthly or every other month.
Yeah.
And
And they feel, what I love is that they, both sets of families, really feel comfortable asking us questions about things that we had experienced with our kiddos when they were little. Getting that medical background.
Food allergies. Food allergies and eczema
yeah.
were like the one thing they were like, this is really likely with the babies.
Yes.
Like it just is what it is. But I mean, they're not hard to take care of. But like, the signs and symptoms of that, they'll be like, hey, we've noticed this. And we're like, oh,
or they'll be like, what worked for, your kiddo when they were going through this. And
yeah. And so it's just really simple, like, oh, if you're seeing that, definitely go to the doctor and get allergy testing, because
Yeah.
that particular one probably does have some.
But we felt the same way when we were getting the sperm donation. Is we wanted to make sure if our kids felt like they wanted to make that familial connection at some point in their lives, it was an option.
Yeah.
And we also have
our kids, our 4,
yeah,
wanting to connect with any of the sperm donor
sperm
siblings, or
and we have a online Facebook group of different families that use this same sperm donor. And we've met some of them, and
Mhm.
it's also like I call them dibblings. I don't know what everybody calls them, but donor siblings. And it's just fun to see how they are all similar and how they're different. And
yeah, so we just want our kiddos also to have that ability to connect with these, because I mean they're technically full
biological
siblings. And then there's no like surprise DNA. We did a DNA test, and where did all these people go? Like, we don't want anybody to end up with that surprise and shock.
Yeah.
So
Wonderful. And you share that information with the families that you donated embryos to, where they can find half siblings.
yeah,
They're
part
both
of
on those groups too now.
the sperm donor group as well. So and they haven't shared with the sperm donor group that we donated the embryo. So all of those families just assume they got sperm from that, and we again,
That's
like, we don't say
that's
anything.
their
It's up to
decision,
them.
not ours.
So like the sperm donor group have no idea that our kids and those three are fully biologically related to each other.
It's
So-
wonderful. That's wonderful.
Can I interrupt for 1 second? I want to say your boundaries are amazing. They're perfect. And I am so impressed with how you have coordinated so many pieces and parts of this to make it work for everybody in such a comfortable way. That's really impressive. And I
you.
also just wanted to ask, how old are your kids?
We have two that just turned 10. Our twins turned 10
Yesterday.
yesterday. And then we have a
Happy
5-year-old.
birthday.
Yes.
Yep, a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old.
2.5-year-old, yeah. She thinks she's about 12 though.
Wow, that's great. I'm a mom of 4, so I know what that juggling act is like. So yeah, just great. Okay, I won't interrupt anymore. I'll go back to being muted, but thank you.
No, Judy, you're always welcome to join in. You have amazing, insightful questions always. Judy has adopted 4 kids from Russia. So 3 from Russia and 1 from the United States. Sorry, yeah. So Judy's very familiar with that space, and yeah, she's our guru.
And
That's
I think
I was gonna say you should share that part.
connection, like things that made donation easier for us, because I think a lot of people worry, like, whoever you donate to, are they going to love the kids as much as you could if you had them? But I'm not biologically related to R4, and I couldn't love them more than I do. And so I knew, like, as much as people worry about that, like, it's kind of in my brain a non-issue. Like, once you've gone through the act of the pregnancy and giving birth and taking care of them right from the first few weeks, like, you just love them because they're your kids, and
Yeah.
it doesn't matter genetics or not genetics. Like, they're just the perfect little humans for you.
And your grandma adopted all 6 of her
Yeah,
kids. So
my grandma-
adoption was a thing.
Yeah, and she, way back when it wasn't a thing to be open, was always super open about it. So all of my aunts and uncles knew that they were adopted from the get-go back in the, like, 60s, 50s,
60s, yeah.
And so, like, that was never a concern that I know that a lot of people have when they're doing the adoption, and that's just something they have to go through. But, like, once you've had them, like, they're just your kids and you love them, and it doesn't matter genetically where they came from. So
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. What do you remember? Were there any expenses or costs associated with the donation?
the only costs were, like, having to get, like, paperwork signed and notarized, and then that was all reimbursed. We didn't have to pay anything for, like, getting it shipped to the families. Like, all that was taken care of. The biggest time consuming thing for us was getting our IVF place to get the paperwork done and
make
like,
sure that everything was up to date on their end.
Yeah, that was the biggest struggle, was just getting them, because they're not getting paid to do any of that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like this weird gray area of, we're wanting to do this, you guys have to help us because you're a clinic, but it's not actually for us.
Yeah.
So they didn't quite feel the rush and the, like, need to be as on top of things as we wanted them to be.
And we felt so bad for the families waiting, because, you know, they also had chosen us too. You know, it was a 2-way street, and they had also wanted these little maybe babies, and we're like, I'm so sorry that it's not happening for you as quickly as it should.
So that was,
well, and that's hard too, because we had gone through, you know,
the wait,
a lot of wait in order to get pregnant the first time, and I know how hard that is, and I didn't want to put them through that, and we didn't have control.
Yeah,
I don't like not having control.
But no, cost wise, it was all covered.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're on mute.
That's wonderful. We just want our families to have realistic expectations and know that it's a process and takes time. And your case, I remember it took us a long time to recover all the medical records from your clinic, and we needed your assistance and help because they didn't talk to us directly. They just wanted to talk to you, their patients. And it's important for families who are about to embark on this journey to realize that this is a process. It might take several months for this or that step. So thank you for sharing this. This is very important for setting realistic expectations about how long the process will take for both donors and recipients. Um, Wonderful. So, what do you wish you knew before embarking on embryo donation journey? What were there any surprises?
Not surprises for me. Like my biggest worry was how was I going to feel about the babies once they were born? Like would it feel like they were super duper my kid's siblings, our kid being born? Because you don't know. Like it's just such a great unknown feeling. Like we had the best of intentions of what we wanted to say we'd feel.
Yeah.
But who knows? Like once they came and actually were breathing in little humans, and once it happened, I was like so thankful because I don't, kind of like maybe nieces, kind of like the
Or like
our kids as cousins,
or like dear friends' kids, like
yeah,
that are
that we care about a lot.
almost, family, but aren't ours, but are important to us.
Yeah, but they don't feel like our children. We do not want to get in the middle of parenting them. We
No.
don't want to be parents to them. We don't want to, we haven't met any of them in person though, and hopefully at some point, like one of the families that we're closest with definitely wants to visit and
Yeah.
like let everybody meet, and that'd be great. And
Which we
super
would
fun.
adore doing, yes.
But yeah, like once like they were there, are who we donated to, it's their kids, it's their family, it's their stuff, and we really, other than feeling really good about helping with the allergy and the eczema and that sort of side of things, of just the quirkiness of the genetics of
Yeah.
what runs through real solid of all of the children.
Yes.
Um they don't feel like our kids at all, and that's exactly how we wanted it to be.
And I think I would just want to tell families who are thinking about donating is that I just feel so happy that these little people exist and they've been given a chance and they have the coolest families that they get to grow up with. I'm every day I'm just so thankful that they are around and that they have these parents who absolutely adore them. The process of, going through infertility, the process of having to, do a fertility treatments or embryo transfers, like it is it is so hard. And to go through that because you want that baby so much, that that baby is loved. And I love seeing how loved they are, and I just feel so honored that I could have, taken a part in that. I feel really, really thankful.
Yeah, and we chose our sperm donor, who literally wrote, because they all had to write little notes and whatever, but he was just like, his note to the kids that they get once they, are old enough to read, or whatever, whenever the parents want to share, was more or less saying along the same lines of, just know that your family worked really hard for you and they love you so much. And like that was the kind of person who we got as a donor, who we, unfortunately, because of how the laws and donation worked at the time, doesn't become an open donor until
They're 18.
the oldest kids are 18. And boy, howdy's that, he's gonna get a surprise at 18. And
Yeah.
that oldest is 18 and gets a connection, because like we're all so connected to each other.
Yeah.
There's about 25 kids all together. So yeah, that's gonna be but it's still really nice. Like he knew and was giving us this gift, and knew he was giving us, all of us, this gift, and for us to be able to then do it again to the next families was really,
Yeah.
really nice.
Pay it forward.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's so great to see you again after all these babies, 3 babies born, and there's still embryos left. These families are thinking about having more children because both families are very young, so they have time to space them the way they want them, and there will be more babies born.
How you
Yeah.
guys feel is very similar to how birth parents feel in adoption. And as an adoptive parent who could never have been a mom unless there was somebody like you guys who turn around and say, I know this isn't for me, but it's meant for somebody else. And to have that gift given to you changes your life in such a way that the word thank you is inadequate. And I remember when my first child was placed in my arms and I thought of the sacrifice that her birth mother made. All I can think of is that I'm so grateful there's somebody on this planet who could do this so I could become a mother because that's what I wanted so badly. And I kept spinning my wheels, never getting to that goal. So the impact is so tremendous, especially like in my life, because it led me into doing adoption work. And as a result of my adopting 4 kids, hundreds and hundreds of children got adopted. And with each one, I was able to share what my journey was to let them know that this is such a unique and special way to build a family, but it's a family. In the end,
Yeah.
that's all you are is a family, and that's all you ever wanted. And that how you come to be is so not important in some ways, and the biggest, most important thing in other ways. So I thank you because your generosity changes the lives for generations to come. You change the world by doing what you do. You just don't change one person's life, but you've changed it for generations. And it's so moving and it's so important. And as a mom, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, no, we couldn't have. Yeah, we made the best choice for us for sure, and for our kids, and actually our oldest too. It's kind of funny, like they were old enough to understand, like when we were going through the process of what it meant. The younger one's not. And we asked him, and we're like we won't do this if you don't want us to, because these children will be your genetic full siblings. So, and both of them were like, yeah, let's do it. So because we've never kept from them how they came to be. I think it was just this easy non-issue. And I love that in time, over time, it's, people have learned that it really doesn't have to be this big secret kept. So
Well, and I just think, family is wonderful, and we've just created these bonds with people, and we've just expounded our family, and I have 21 first cousins that I am not close with at all. And I just kind of love that our kids get to have these other families that care about them. And
mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's
two
just
of
really
the
nice.
sperm donors, so the half siblings, there's a set of twins in Colorado, girl twins, who are pen pals with our boy twins.
Yeah.
And so just to have all those connections for them, and like they understand that they have the same donor and all that sort of stuff, but just they have so many similar likes, like favorite colors and all this kind of like underneath things, that it's super fun. And like one of the girls had a dimple, but
Oh my gosh, the cute
her
dimple.
mom didn't, and her twin sibling didn't, and she
But
was just
our
so
kids
like
do.
frustrated and wanted somebody in her family to also have one. And so we're like, actually, all of ours do.
Yeah.
And so she was just stoked that she had like this connection of this dimple.
Well, and some of the same things like swimming. Our
Mhm.
kids are little fish, and
They love to swim.
they're
And our
fish too. And
donor love to swim, and
yeah.
they all love to eat. I hate fish. She's not a huge fan
I
of fish.
didn't like fish except for when I was pregnant. That was one of my weirdest cravings.
And
like
almost all the sperm donor kids and the
love
sperm donor
fish.
love fish, like to the extent of making their moms when they're pregnant with them eat fish. So it's just like those like mannerisms, and I realize like there's a lot of those things that can be the same, because my biological mom, when we met her biological mom, my
They were the
mom
same
was the
person.
copy of her, and it was the craziest thing. They had the same mannerisms. They'd never met in their life. They had the same
Hairdo.
and colored their hair from the same box and smoked, which is terrible. They shouldn't smoke, but they smoked the same brand of cigarette. And it was just crazy to see, like, it didn't matter that my mom had been raised in a Southern family. The mannerisms, there were so many the
Very
same.
similar.
But then there were so many things that you could see where she picked up from her adoptive family that her biological family didn't do at all. And it was so funny to see those things too. So we can see where like genetics are taking over and where it's how you were raised are taking over, and it's just fun to like get to connect and see all those little
And it's fun for our
intricacies.
kids to get to see, similar things from.
Yeah. Favorite color, generally with boys, not pink. Like half the donor siblings, favorite color when young for the
It's
boys
pink.
are pink. And it's just like, that's so not normal.
Pink and green seem to be very
Yeah. So
favorite.
It's just been fun to watch the genetics of it all along with all the other stuff because the science of it is so
The
interesting.
nature versus nurture thing is absolutely phenomenal. I know.
Yeah.
And with my kids, my 3 kids who were born in Russia are biological siblings. So to see their connections that are biological and how they bump into the family stuff and how everybody's kind of a blend of both or whatever. And then there's my oldest daughter who is my domestic adoption, how she was similar but yet different and all. But I mean, to me, when I first adopted my kids, they were 3, 4, and 5, the ones from Russia. I felt like I was living in a science experiment. I mean, I would say that between them not speaking English, not knowing anything about living in a normal household, they came from an orphanage, they were pretty institutionalized. So I kept thinking that as that first year, I was like in a giant science experiment. And I was hoping I was going to do okay with it because otherwise I would, I could be screwing up 4 other lives besides my own. But it's just raising children itself is fascinating. Besides the fact you go insane most of the time, but it is fascinating.
Our first year with twins, we definitely felt like we were in some sort of experiment too, and we did not. We weren't sure what we were doing either. So
I remember day 3 out of the hospital. They're like, "Yeah, you can take him home now." We're like, "Are you sure that's a good idea? Maybe we should just stay here with you guys."
I think there needs to be a test we take or something.
Well, you should trust both of us who've never had children to take 2 babies home at once.
Yeah.
But it worked out.
The only test you have to pass is the one with a car seat.
I went through C-section and they're like, well, you can already go home. I'm like, no, I had C-section. Can I stay 2 more days here? They're like, I want all the nurses around me helping me with the baby. I'm like, I'm not ready to be dismissed.
I can't pick the baby up yet. You told me I had a weight limit. They're like, you can pick anything up to your baby size. You're like, but I'm not.
Yeah, she had to have a C-section with the last 2, not the twins, but the next 2. And I don't know how she would have done it if I hadn't been around to do a lot of the physical part of it.
Well, yeah, because we had 2 toddlers and it's a lot.
Yeah, C-sections are hard.
Well, that's wonderful. It's such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for taking your time and sharing your story. So we'll post this video on our website and it will become part of our educational course that Judy created. So we'll just add another chapter with this video testimonials. Thank you so much.
I don't know if you can, and obviously we don't give away any of the stuff, but if any of the donor families want to connect and have it connect in the 2 videos, it's totally fine with us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Because sometimes donors do ask me, they're like, oh, we want to talk to another family who went through this because we'll have questions. How was the experience? So thank you for letting me know. I'll share your information if I have someone else.
Absolutely. We're happy to connect.
We're very much an open book.
Yeah.
They were great interviews. I enjoyed listening to the whole thing. It was great. I have my headphones on, so.
You guys are fabulous. I mean, really, you are like the poster children of how to help people through a new process that a lot of people are not familiar with. And had this existed, because I mean, I understood when you said that bit about your grandmother and how, adoption was kind of taboo back long ago in the 60s, which is when I was a child. But I mean, I adopted in the middle 80s and it was still taboo because when I adopted my oldest daughter, who's now 38, that shocks me every time I say it. I really wasn't comfortable with it because I felt like people were judging me as it was not as good as having a child yourself. And it's the second best way to go about it. And therefore, it wasn't taken as seriously by some of my family members. And it was sort of like, it was like treated like you're getting a dog or a cat, a pet, like instead of a human being that is now your child. And I remember going through this with my father of him saying like, Oh, well, how big is her mother? How tall is her mother? Because she looks like she's got big hands and feet. I said like a puppy, right? You look at a puppy and you think it's going to be a big dog based on the paws. And I remember saying, I'm 5'4". No, no, her real mother. I am her real mother.
Oh,
Your own
I
father wouldn't get
that.
this.
Yes.
So,
Yeah,
so
no,
and if this kind of technology existed back when I was trying to build a family, I would have jumped on this in a heartbeat. The idea of being able to be pregnant when you can't do it on your own and carrying a baby to term, unbelievable. And anybody who is willing to hear all of this could be like a door could open up and a future could be given to them that is so much less complicated than the IVF and everything else that goes with that, which is why, as an adoption social worker, I talk about this option with families I'm working with because I want them to understand there are lots of ways to adopt, not just an already existing grown person, like a baby that's there, but the baby that's coming in a different form, in a different level of where their development is. And some people have a hard time wrapping their heads around this because they don't understand what an embryo is. So
Yeah.
I think like talking about this with people and sharing with this the educational part of this program is so important because there's just no exposure. It's so new. So I thank you from the adoption community. I thank you from the parenting community. And you guys are just fabulous. And I wish you the best of luck with your kids. And when they're teenagers, you're going to wish you could give them back for a few minutes, but it'll pass.
we actually, yeah, the big thing was like educating our families on
Yeah.
the whole process from the very beginning, and then like getting to share with like my folks and her folks about the donating them, and that there's these little people out there now, and
And
they're
using the proper terms where,
yeah,
when they try to say, the real mom, and we're like, no,
no,
like I am the biological donor of, the half, but that's their mom. That's their, those are
yeah,
their families. That's what we wanted them to have, and that's what they have.
Right.
yeah. So yeah, it's been just educating that our generation up. Like some just ran with it and understood, and others were like real iffy about the whole process.
Yeah.
For us, and it's just like it's this is the times now. This is a
Yep.
wonderful step forward that we've made. So
And aren't we lucky to live now?
Yeah.
And we can do this.
although a funny thing is, whenever her parents asked, because they knew we had 14 embryos, how many we were gonna have, we used to be like, all of them,
14.
of course. And just stress them out like crazy. So yeah.
Just
Ladies,
remember, whatever you're doing to your parents, your kids are going to do to you one day. It all
That's
comes
okay.
back.
That's it.
I would be okay with 14 grandkids because then I can give them back.
Tell your parents they have to buy them all Christmas presents. There you go. Shut them all up.
oh, that's wonderful. Do you remember what was what the disposition option did you choose? In the donation contract, we asked the donors to choose what would happen to any embryos that the recipient family will not use. Because there is a chance
Come
that
back.
there are two left. Mhm.
Yeah, they come back to us.
Okay. So they will,
And
once
then-
they're done building their family, they will return the embryos back to you, and then you'll decide if you want to redonate them to a third family.
Yeah.
That was our decision. I don't know, like by the time those families are done, where we'll be at that point. But yeah, that was kind of our like one big thing was that any leftover embryos would come back to us.
Wonderful.
So.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure talking to you. And do you mind sharing a few photos of your kids with us so we can include them in the edited video? So between questions and answers, we can, if you don't mind sharing the photos of your kids.
Just email them to you.
Yep, you can just email them to me. Yep.
Will do.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so
I
much.
have Thank you.
Thank you
It was
guys.
nice meeting you. Thank you so much.
Have a great holiday.
Happy
Great
holidays.
Thanksgiving. Yep.
You
Happy
will.
You guys
Thanksgiving.
have a wonderful Thanksgiving as well.
Thank you.
Terrific.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well,
They
that
were
was
great.
nice. Yeah, they
They
were very
were
nice.
great. Oh my God.
Yeah, they're
Oh,
amazing.
wow. 14. Oh, could you imagine?
There was already one transfer that didn't work, so they didn't test the embryos. So non-tested embryos have about 45% chance resulting in live birth. So if they had 14, we would hope that at least 7 children will be born. So 14 embryos doesn't mean 14 children.
Gotcha.
Although all the other, I mean, they're young, so they use a sperm donor and they're young women. So Allison, so maybe statistics for them will be a bit higher, but most of her embryos should be higher quality. But at least one of them didn't make it, so I know that the first transfer didn't work.
Now, do you know what medically is wrong with their first son?
Right. So she said de novo. So there was a genetic mutation. So it was not inherited from the sperm
Oh,
donor or from the
interesting.
source. It's just a new genetic mutation. So they done an excessive test and they determined that it was not inherited because often donors, especially anonymous sperm donors or egg donors, they go through extensive genetic carrier screening. So we know that that particular disorder was not inherited. It was just a fluke of nature. So it was a new mutation that just happened. And so they struggled a little bit, but I think so they
Do
just
they,
they
do they know
disclosed
how it's going to express itself, or do they don't know?
what it's already expressing in the physical characteristics. So it's the shape of the eyes and
Oh,
face, the nose. And I think there is extent to which it can affect developmentally the child. There's a range. So it's unclear sort of there will be some lifelong consequences, but it's unclear, how
Is it
severe.
is it similar to Down syndrome?
It's not Down syndrome. I mean, if you're interested, I can send you the name of this particular disorder, but it's very, very rare, and all our recipient families where we send the profile, and it's part of the profile. It says that the oldest child has that, but extensive testing was done, and it's new. It's not an inherited gene, so they decide whether they're willing to take the risk, and so yeah, so they shared everything they found out in the process of taking care of their oldest one.
Interesting.
Yeah, a lot of our sort of a lot of our families, even if it's not genetic, they don't have perfect family medical history because when you go through sperm bank or egg bank, those usually people are screened and they're the healthiest of the population. So they wouldn't accept a person with this and that as the sperm or egg donor. Obviously, a lot of it is self-reported, questioning of how much you disclose about your grandparents and parents. But who we work with just regular families, regular couples, like me and you, we went through IVF to have our kids. So the family medical history is not as perfect. So there can be rheumatoid arthritis, there can be diabetes. Like a person will not be accepted to be an egg donor if there is a diabetes in the family, for example, especially with a child with diabetes. Yeah. So, but in this case, and we encourage our donors to be very truthful, and we disclose all of them, and we can arrange a genetic consult for the recipients so they know what the risks are, and and we always tell you if it's your genetic child, look back at your parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles. No one has a perfect, medical history, so you make those decisions what risks you're willing to accept.
Unbelievable. Fascinating. So how many more of these are you going to do?
Interviews?
Yep.
So